My beloved child, listen carefully. This is not a random moment. This is not a coincidence. This is the final alert your spirit has been sensing, the quiet pressure in your chest, the urgency you could not explain. Heaven has been watching the seconds around your life, and now the veil is thin. Jesus speaks from glory, and Archangel Michael stands as witness, saying clearly, "My child, your moment has arrived, but time is expiring fast. Ignore this and your angels will step back. You were never meant to hear this by accident." From heaven, Jesus sees the full picture of your life, every delay, every tear you swallowed in silence, every prayer you thought went unheard. And today, He releases this message because the window is open, but it is not wide. The clock is moving, not to frighten you, but to awaken you. What is approaching is not ordinary. It is decisive. Archangel Michael steps forward with authority, not anger. His voice carries urgency mixed with protection. He says that angels have been standing on assignment around you, guarding doors, locking traps, delaying consequences you never even saw. But heaven honors choice. If a moment is ignored long enough, divine assistance does not force itself. It respectfully steps back. This is why this alert is firm. This is why it feels intense. Jesus is not warning you because you are failing. He is warning you because you are chosen for a turning point. There is a decision tied to your obedience that unlocks movement in the spirit realm. Something you have been postponing, doubting, or waiting to feel ready for has already been approved in heaven. The delay is not on God's side. Michael reveals that time-sensitive assignments do not repeat endlessly. When heaven marks a moment, it comes with grace, power, and help, but it also comes with a boundary. Not punishment. Alignment. You are standing at a threshold where obedience accelerates destiny, and hesitation causes divine help to pause. Jesus says, "I have prepared you more than you realize." You kept thinking you needed more signs, more confirmation, more confidence. But heaven says the confirmation has already been circling you, through repeated thoughts, through words from strangers, through doors half opening and closing again. Those were not coincidences. They were countdown signals. Archangel Michael explains that when angels step back, it does not mean abandonment. It means heaven allowing you to feel the weight of choice without interference. Protection lifts slightly so clarity can enter fully. This is often when people say, everything suddenly got harder. Not because God left, but because the moment required a response that was delayed. Jesus is gentle but direct. "My child, do not mistake my patience for permission to wait forever." Heaven has already moved. The question now is whether you will move with it. There is something specific tied to your life right now. An action, a separation, a conversation, a step of faith. You know exactly what it is. Your spirit tightened the moment this message began because recognition already happened inside you. The tightening is not fear. It is truth knocking. Michael shows a vision of doors behind you slowly closing, not in threat, but in sequence. When one door closes, another can open, but some doors are connected to timing. They open once, for a season, with support assigned to them. Miss the season, and the door is no longer hostile. It is simply no longer active. Jesus says this alert is mercy. Heaven could have stayed silent. But love speaks before time expires. Love won't before withdrawal. Love sends a final signal not to scare you, but to rescue you from regret. You have been praying for clarity, and clarity has arrived, not as comfort, but as instruction. Comfort comes after obedience. Peace follows alignment. The unease you feel now is temporary, but the peace on the other side of action is lasting. Archangel Michael stands with sword lowered, not raised. This is not about battle, it is about decision. He says, when you step forward, we step forward. When you delay, we pause. Heaven moves in agreement with your will. Jesus speaks one more time, softly but firmly. This is the hour where listening matters more than understanding. You do not need every detail. You need courage to move where heaven nudges. You not let this moment blend into another scroll, another forgotten message. This is not meant to be consumed casually. It is meant to be received, weighed, and acted upon. Your angels are still near. The window is still open, but the sand is shifting. Respond with faith, and heaven responds with force. Beloved one, pause your racing thoughts and listen deeper, because what heaven is revealing now explains why pressure has increased around you lately. This is not random stress, not sudden resistance, not emotional heaviness without cause. Jesus sees the unseen weight pressing against your spirit, and Archangel Michael confirms it. When destiny draws near, resistance always grows louder. What you are feeling is not weakness, it is proximity. There has been a narrowing around your life. Fewer distractions work. Old comforts no longer satisfy. Even people who once felt familiar now feel distant. This is not loss. It is alignment. Heaven is reducing noise so you can hear clearly. Michael says that when time-sensitive moments approach, God simplifies the path so the decision becomes unavoidable. That is why certain options have quietly fallen away. Heaven is guiding you toward one clear step. Jesus speaks gently but truthfully. You cannot carry hesitation into the next season. What you are stepping into requires agreement, not delay. The reason angels have been working overtime around you is because the outcome tied to your obedience affects more than just you. There are others connected to your yes, people you may never meet, prayers you did not pray, chains you were not born into but were chosen to break. Michael reveals something crucial now. Heaven does not withdraw help suddenly. There are stages. First comes prompting, then confirmation, then urgency. You are in the urgency phase. That is why this message feels weightier than others you have heard before. The angels assigned to your life are attentive, but they are also waiting instruction from your will. God will not override your choice, even for your blessing. Jesus says, I am not asking you to leap blindly. I am asking you to trust what I have already shown you. Think back. The same message had been coming to you in different forms. Through scripture, through dreams, through repeated thoughts you tried to push aside, even through delays that forced you to reconsider your direction. Heaven has been consistent. Only the packaging changed. There is also something you must understand clearly. Ignoring this moment does not make it disappear. It simply shifts the way it manifests. What could have come with ease may come with struggle. What could have come with angelic assistance may require endurance instead. This is not punishment. It is consequence. Heaven prefers partnership, not pressure. Michael's voice carries urgency now, not fear. He says that when angels step back, it is not to harm you, but to let reality speak louder than prompting. Many people only recognize divine help once it pauses. Heaven would rather you respond now than learn later through unnecessary hardship. That is why this message is direct. Jesus reminds you that obedience is not about perfection. It is about movement. You do not need to feel brave. You need to move while fear is still present. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is agreement with God in spite of it. The moment you take the step you have been avoiding, the atmosphere around you will shift rapidly. If this message is stirring something inside you, do not keep it to yourself. This is a moment to engage, not observe silently. Let your agreement be visible. Like this message as a sign of alignment. Share it with someone who may be standing at their own crossroads. Leave a comment declaring that you are choosing obedience over delay. When you interact, you are not helping an algorithm. You are making a spiritual statement that you are present and responsive. This is also the time to stay connected. Subscribe and remain close to this channel, because these messages are not random uploads. They are part of a sequence. Heaven often speaks in layers, and missing one can cause confusion in the next. Stay anchored so clarity continues to build, not fragment. Jesus says that those who remain attentive receive reinforcement. Those who drift miss reinforcement and call it silence. This is not the moment to drift. This is where consistency protects you. Engage fully, because what is coming next will answer questions you have been carrying for a long time. Michael shows a vision now of angels leaning forward, not back. They are ready. The pause you feel is not from heaven. It is waiting on your response. Once you move, assistance moves swiftly. Doors that felt heavy will open smoothly. Conversations you feared will unfold with unexpected grace. Resistance will not vanish, but it will lose authority. Before you move on from this message, let this settle. You are not late, but you are close to the edge of delay. There is still time, but it is no longer abundant. This is why this word matters now more than ever. Hold on, because what is coming next will connect the warning you heard with the specific action heaven is asking of you, and when you see it, everything will finally make sense. Chosen one, receive this with reverence, because heaven is now revealing what this moment is truly connected to. This is not only about a single decision. It is about a transfer. Jesus speaks from heaven with clarity. There is a mantle near you that has been waiting for alignment. It is not new, and it is not random. It was prepared long before you recognized it, and now the timing has caught up with the calling. Archangel Michael stands firm and says that many delays in your past were not denials, but protection. If certain doors had opened earlier, you would have entered them without the authority you carry now. What once felt like rejection was actually heaven buying time so your spirit could mature. This is why the current urgency feels different. You are no longer being prepared. You are being summoned. Jesus reveals that the reason this alert came with such weight is because the next season requires clarity of allegiance. You cannot straddle comfort and calling anymore. Heaven is not demanding sacrifice to take from you, but to free you. There are attachments, habits, mindsets, even certain relationships that were permissible before but will be heavy in the next season. Not sinful, just incompatible. Michael shows a vision of you standing between two paths. One is familiar, predictable, and emotionally safe. The other is narrow, unfamiliar, but charged with divine movement. Both are open right now, but only one will remain open. Heaven does not rush people, but destiny does not wait forever. This is why the alert was sent now, not later. Jesus says something very personal to you now. What you are afraid of losing is smaller than what I am trying to entrust to you. You have been measuring obedience by what it might cost you, not by what it will release through you. Heaven sees generations, not just moments. The obedience you offer now echoes farther than you imagine. Archangel Michael explains that when angels step back, it is often because God is inviting the person to step forward without leaning on signs. Faith matures when it no longer needs constant reassurance. This moment is a graduation point. You are not being abandoned. You are being trusted. There is also healing tied to this step. Jesus says that unresolved pain from your past has lingered not because he could not heal it, but because it was waiting to be surrendered through obedience. Some wounds close only when you move forward, not when you look back. This is why revisiting the past has brought diminishing returns lately. Heaven is pointing you ahead. Michael's voice softens now. He says that many people miss their moment not because they reject God, but because they overthink him. They wait for perfect condition to perfect timing, perfect confidence. Heaven rarely works that way. Instead, it provides enough light for the next step, not the whole staircase. Jesus assures you that once you move, confirmation will follow. Peace will settle. Resistance will lessen. Support will rise from unexpected places. But first, movement is required. Faith that does not move remains belief, not obedience. This is where the spiritual realm is watching closely. Angels are attentive. Heaven is silent for a reason now, not absent. Silence is often the space where your yes becomes audible. If this message is resonating deeply, if your spirit feels exposed yet understood, this is your moment to respond outwardly as well as inwardly. Type "I receive the call" in the comments if this is speaking directly to your spirit. Blessing code 1440 has just been released. Now hear this with clarity and authority. As this word goes forth, the mission must also continue. Jesus says that when truth reaches a heart at the right moment, it is never by accident. It is because someone chose to sow so that light could travel farther. This message reached you because others responded in obedience before you did. I hear the Spirit say, as you sow into this work, I will multiply your reach. When you support this mission through super thanks, membership, or PayPal donation, links are waiting in the description. You are not funding a channel. You are watering seeds in souls across the world. This is not charity. This is alignment. The Lord declares, those who pour oil into my altar will never lack oil in their own house. Your giving in this moment becomes a prophetic action, a signal that you understand the urgency of the hour. Heaven responds swiftly to those who move when time is short. I speak blessing over every giver now. May doors open faster than resistance can rise. May clarity replace confusion. May provision overtake you. Do not hesitate. Act while the window is open. Sow now, and watch heaven respond. Beloved one, now that heaven has revealed the weight of this moment, Jesus begins to uncover what happens immediately after your decision. This is where many misunderstand the process. They expect instant perfection, instant peace, instant reward. But heaven works deeper than appearances. Archangel Michael explains that the first sign of correct alignment is not always ease. It is clarity. Confusion lifts first. The fog in your mind begins to thin. You may still feel pressure, but you will no longer feel lost. Jesus says that once you move, the internal war quiets. That constant back and forth inside you, the exhausting debate between fear and faith, begins to lose its grip. Not because circumstances suddenly change, but because authority shifts. When you agree with heaven, heaven reinforces you from within. Strength rises before outcomes appear. Michael reveals that many people mistake resistance after obedience as failure, when it is actually confirmation. Opposition intensifies when direction becomes firm. Darkness resists clarity. That is why some challenges may surface quickly after you take the step you have been avoiding. This is not a sign to retreat. It is a sign you are walking correctly. Jesus speaks reassurance into your spirit now. He says, I will not ask you to walk where I will not sustain you. Provision does not always arrive before obedience. Often, it follows it, The Israelites did not see the water part until they stepped forward. Heaven still works the same way. Movement unlocks miracles. There is also restoration tied to this decision. Jesus shows moments from your past where disappointment reshaped your expectations. You learned to limit hope to avoid pain. That coping mechanism once protected you, but now it restricts you. Heaven is asking you to trust again, not recklessly, but reverently. Faith is not denial of risk. It is confidence in God's character. Archangel Michael explains that angelic assistance increases in motion. When you stand still, angels stand ready. When you move, angels move with you. This is why obedience often feels accompanied by sudden support, unexpected timing, and divine interruptions. Heaven is active, not passive, in partnership. Jesus also addresses a fear you may not have named out loud, the fear of being seen. Stepping into what God has prepared will expose you in new ways. Visibility agrees with responsibility. Influence attracts attention. But Jesus says he is the one who covers even as he elevates. You will not be exposed without protection. Michael now shows a vision of alignment like gears clicking into place. Things that felt disconnected begin to make sense. Past experiences you thought were wasted reveal their purpose. Skills you underestimated become tools. Even pain becomes language you can use to help others. Nothing surrendered to God is wasted. This is also where patience is required. Obedience does not eliminate process. It sanctifies it. There will be moments where progress feels slower than expected. Do not interpret delay as denial. Heaven often strengthens roots before revealing fruit. What is being built must last longer than a season. Jesus says something important here. Comparison will be a temptation. You may see others advancing faster, receiving quicker results, or appearing more successful. Do not measure your obedience against someone else's timeline. Heaven customizes journeys. Your path is not late. It is precise. Archangel Michael warns gently that the enemy often attacks identity after obedience. Thoughts like "who do you think you are?" or "you've already missed your chance" may arise. These are lies meant to pull you back into hesitation. Do not negotiate with those thoughts. Replace them with truth. Heaven does not call and then mock. It calls and then equips. Jesus reminds you that obedience is not a one-time event. It is a posture. This first step unlocks the next instruction. Clarity comes in sequence. That is why staying sensitive matters. Pride dulls hearing. Humility sharpens it. Stay teachable. Stay responsive. There is peace waiting for you that you have not known before. Not excitement. Not adrenaline. Peace that settles deep and steady. It comes from knowing you are where you are supposed to be, even when you do not see the full picture yet. That peace is a sign of alignment. Michael says that heaven is closer to you now than it was before, not farther. The urgency was not distance, it was timing. Angels do not withdraw from obedience, they rally around it. What felt like pressure was actually proximity. As this message continues to unfold, understand this. The next layer will reveal not only what you are stepping into, but what is stepping away from you permanently. Some things cannot follow you into the next season, and that is not loss. That is deliverance. Let your heart remain open, your spirit attentive, and your will surrendered. What comes next will answer questions you have carried for years, and it will confirm that this alert was not meant to scare you. It was meant to position you. Beloved one, there's a holy separation happening around you now, and Jesus wants you to understand it clearly so you do not misinterpret what you are feeling. Some of the discomfort you are experiencing is not resistance from the enemy. and it is not punishment from God. It is the shedding of what can no longer travel with you. Archangel Michael says this stage often feels lonely, not because heaven has stepped back, but because distractions are being removed. Jesus explains that when God prepares someone for greater responsibility, He first lightens their load. Old emotional dependencies, familiar patterns, and even certain expectations begin to loosen their grip. You may feel less drawn to conversations that once held your attention. You may find yourself uninterested in explanations that once satisfied you. This is not boredom. This is refinement. Michael reveals that many people confuse separation with loss, but heaven calls it focus. What is leaving your life now is not essential to where you are going. If it were, it would be strengthening you instead of draining you. God is not subtracting joy. He is removing noise so true joy can be heard. Jesus speaks directly to the ache in your heart. He knows you are grieving certain versions of yourself. The version that survived by adapting. The version that stayed quiet to keep peace. The version that learned to settle because it felt safer than hoping again. He honors that version, but he also says it cannot lead you forward anymore. Gratitude for survival must now make room for courage. Archangel Michael explains that this is often the stage where people turn back, not because the calling is unclear, but because the silence feels unfamiliar. When old affirmations fall away, and new ones have not yet fully formed, it can feel like emptiness. But heaven calls this space transition. It is where identity is recentered. Jesus says, "Do not rush to fill what I am emptying." This is critical. When God creates space, rushing to replace it with substitutes delays healing. Let the quiet do its work. Let the stillness recalibrate you. You are not being forgotten. You are being realigned. There is also a pruning happening in your thoughts. Certain narratives you have repeated for years are losing their power. Excuses that once sounded reasonable now feel hollow. This is not condemnation. This is growth. When truth increases, tolerance for false comfort decreases. Heaven is sharpening discernment within you. Michael shows that spiritual authority grows in proportion to emotional honesty. You can no longer hide from yourself the way you used to. Avoidance no longer brings relief. Distraction no longer numbs the questions. This is not cruelty. This is preparation. Leaders must be honest with God, with others, and with themselves. Jesus reassures you that what feels like vulnerability is actually strength being uncovered. You are becoming more present, more aware, more responsive. Sensitivity is not weakness when guided by truth. It becomes discernment. It becomes wisdom. There may also be moments now where memories resurface unexpectedly. Not to trap you, but to be healed properly. God does not heal by erasing the past. He heals by redeeming it. What once withered you will soon instruct others through you. But first it must be done by light. Archangel Michael reminds you that healing is not linear. Some days will feel strong and clear. Other days may feel heavy and uncertain. Do not judge your progress by fluctuations. Stability is being built beneath the surface. Roots grow quietly before branches appear. Jesus speaks about trust again, but from a deeper place. This is no longer about trusting Him with outcomes. It is about trusting Him with process. Let Him work in ways that are unfamiliar. Let Him dismantle what you once leaned on. He knows how to rebuild you without breaking you. You may notice that certain people no longer understand you the way they used to. Conversations feel misaligned. Explanations feel unnecessary. This does not mean you are superior. It means you are changing. Growth always alters dynamics. Not everyone can walk with you through every season. Michael emphasizes that discernment is required here. Do not isolate out of pride. Withdraw only as led. Some connections will evolve, not disappear. Others will end quietly without conflict. Allow God to manage exits. Forcing closure creates wounds that patience would heal. Jesus promises that companionship will return in new forms. God never removes without replacing. But replacements come when you are ready to recognize them. If they arrive too early, you would miss them. Timing protects connection. This stage may feel less dramatic than the warning you heard earlier, but it is just as important. Foundations are being adjusted. Alignment is deepening. You are becoming lighter, clearer, and more available to God's voice. What comes next will build upon this inner shift. The outer changes will soon follow the inner alignment. Stay open. Stay obedient. Stay gentle with yourself. Heaven is closer now than ever before, and the quiet you feel is not absence. It is sacred preparation before movement resumes. Beloved one, now heaven turns your attention to something very practical, very real, and very often misunderstood. Jesus speaks about discipline, not as restriction, but as alignment. This next phase is where many feel the call strongly yet struggle quietly, because obedience now requires consistency, not just conviction. Archangel Michael explains that momentum is sustained by daily agreement, not emotional intensity. You may have noticed that your motivation rises and falls. One day you feel clear, confident, and ready. Another day you feel tired, distracted, or tempted to postpone again. This does not mean you are unfit for what God is doing. It means you are human. What heaven is teaching you now is how to move even when emotions fluctuate. Obedience anchored in truth outlasts obedience driven by feeling. Jesus says this is where many stop listening, not because they reject him, but because they underestimate the power of small, repeated choices. They look for another sign, another confirmation, another emotional high. But heaven is watching how you steward the clarity you already received. Faithfulness in the ordinary unlocks authority in the extraordinary. Archangel Michael reveals that angels respond strongly to rhythm. When you show up consistently, even imperfectly, the spiritual realm aligns more easily around you. But when your obedience depends on mood, clarity becomes fragmented. This is why heaven is emphasizing routine, boundaries, and intentional focus now. Not to control you, but to protect you. Jesus addresses a quiet frustration in your heart. You expected things to move faster by now. You thought once you said yes, everything would accelerate immediately. But heaven is strengthening your endurance. Speed without stability creates collapse. God prefers steady growth over fast burnout. This is also where distractions try to re-enter. Old habits knock again. Familiar comforts whisper. Not because they suddenly became right again, but because they sense they are losing access to you. Do not be surprised by this. Temptation often increases when direction becomes firm. Resistance is not proof of failure, it is proof of movement. Michael cautions you not to negotiate with what God already told you to release. Partial obedience prolongs struggle. Complete obedience brings peace, even if circumstances remain challenging for a while. Peace is not the absence of difficulty, it is the absence of inner conflict. Jesus also speaks about rest. Discipline does not mean exhaustion. You are not being asked to push endlessly. You are being asked to listen carefully. Some days obedience will look like action. Other days it will look like restraint. Both require humility. Overworking can be just as disobedient as procrastination if it is driven by fear. There is also a refining of your priorities happening now. You are becoming more aware of where your time goes, where your energy leaks, where your attention is divided. This awareness is not meant to shame you. It is meant to empower you. What you protect grows. What you neglect weakens. Archangel Michael says this is the stage where heaven looks for agreement between confession and behavior. What you say you believe must begin to shape how you live. Not perfectly, but intentionally. Integrity is alignment between inner conviction and outward practice. Jesus reassures you that grace covers your learning curve. You will stumble. You will have days where you retreat mentally. Do not confuse a stumble with a return to old patterns. Quickly. Shame prolongs setbacks. Repentance restores momentum. If these words are grounding you, strengthening you, and helping you stay focused in this crucial season, do not remain silent. Like this message as a sign of agreement. Share it with someone who may be struggling with consistency right now. Leave a comment declaring that you are choosing faithfulness over feeling. And stay connected by subscribing, because these messages are meant to walk with you step by step, not just inspire you for a moment. Before you move on, let this settle deeply. What you are building now is not visible yet, but it is essential. Foundations are being reinforced. Habits are being sanctified. Attention is being trained. This is how longevity is formed. Archangel Michael shows angels marking your consistency, not your perfection. Heaven celebrates your return every time you choose obedience again. Do not underestimate the spiritual weight of showing up. Hold on, because what comes next will reveal how this discipline begins to produce visible change. And once that shift starts, you will understand why heaven insisted on this stage first. Beloved one, now heaven reveals the transition you have been sensing but could not fully explain. Jesus speaks of momentum, not the rushed kind that exhausts, but the steady unfolding that confirms alignment. Archangel Michael says this is the stage where obedience begins to echo outward. What was internal starts to become visible. Not dramatic at first, but unmistakable. You may notice subtle shifts. Conversations begin to change tone. Opportunities appear that require readiness rather than permission. Old limitations feel less convincing. This is not imagination. It is the fruit of alignment beginning to surface. Heaven is responding to your consistency by allowing movement to meet you halfway. Jesus explains that visibility follows faithfulness. Not all at once, and not without discernment. You are being introduced to the next layer of responsibility carefully. God reveals capacity gradually so pride does not outpace character. What you can handle expands as humility remains intact. Archangel Michael reveals that this is often where discernment becomes critical. Not every open door is assignment. Not every invitation is alignment. Some opportunities are distractions disguised as promotion. Heaven will not rush you into confusion. The same voice that called you forward will guide you in choosing wisely. Stay sensitive. Do not assume every new option is God's best. Jesus speaks about authority now. True authority does not announce itself loudly. It is recognized quietly. You will notice people listening differently, responding differently, trusting your words more than before. This is not because you became more impressive, but because you became more aligned. Authority flows from agreement with heaven, not from self-effort. There is also a strengthening of boundaries happening. You are learning when to say yes and when to say no without guilt. This is maturity. Obedience requires discernment, not people-pleasing. Jesus says that pleasing God often disappoints expectations that were never meant to guide you. Michael shows that angels now work more strategically around you. Where they once guarded and delayed, they now arrange and accelerate. Timing becomes sharper. Interruptions become purposeful. Delays reveal instruction rather than frustration. You are learning to read the language of heaven in real time. This stage may also expose remaining fears. Not the loud ones, but the quiet doubts that whisper, what if this fails? Or what if you are misunderstood? Jesus addresses this directly. He says misunderstanding is not failure. Obedience is not measured by applause. Some of your greatest confirmations will come privately, not publicly. You may also experience a deepening compassion for others. Not pity, but clarity. You see patterns more clearly. You recognize where people are stuck because you remember where you were. This is preparation. What you have walked through is becoming wisdom, not just memory. Archangel Michael emphasizes that humility must remain active here. A moment of contempt you to are listening. Do not move faster than instruction. Speed is not proof of anointing. Accuracy is. Heaven prefers precision over haste. Jesus says something important now. Rest must increase as responsibility increases. This may sound counterintuitive, but it is essential. You cannot carry more if you do not learn to rest deeper. Rest is not withdrawal. It is trust. It says you believe God is working even when you pause. There may be moments where you feel stretched. New expectations require new capacity. Do not interpret stretching as strain. Muscles grow under tension. Faith grows under responsibility. Ask God for wisdom, not escape. He will supply insight before pressure becomes overwhelmed. Michael reveals that some relationships will shift again at this stage. Not because of conflict, but because roles change. Some people will now look to you for guidance instead of companionship. Others may step back quietly. Let this happen without resentment. Seasons change relationships without invalidating their value. Jesus reminds you to guard gratitude. When movement begins, it is easy to focus on what is still missing. Gratitude anchors you in truth. It reminds you how far you have come. Thankfulness protects joy from being swallowed by ambition. This is also where obedience begins to feel more natural. What once required effort now flows with ease. Discipline becomes habit. Listening becomes instinct. This is not because the call weakened, but because you grew stronger. Archangel Michael shows that heaven is now preparing you for the next revelation. The warning that opened this journey is transforming into wisdom. Urgency is becoming confidence. Pressure is becoming purpose. As you continue forward, remain attentive. What comes next will clarify the larger picture, why this moment mattered so much, why the alert was so firm, and why heaven insisted on your response. You are not just moving into something new. You are stepping into something that was waiting for you to be ready. Stay present. Stay humble. Stay obedient. The unfolding has begun, and heaven is walking with you step by step. Beloved one, now heaven opens your eyes to the larger reason this moment was guarded so fiercely. Jesus speaks with authority and tenderness, revealing that what you are stepping into is not only for your life, but for impact far beyond what you imagined. Archangel Michael confirms that this is the stage where purpose moves from personal transformation into outward assignment. You were not only being prepared to change, you were being prepared to carry. There is a weight of trust being placed on you now. Not pressure, but responsibility. Jesus says that when God entrusts someone with influence, he first ensures they know how to listen. What you learned in silence will now shape what you release in sound. What you endured privately will now protect others publicly. This is why heaven insisted on obedience earlier. Influence without alignment damages both the carrier and the hearer. Michael reveals that your life is becoming a signpost. People will not only hear what you say, they will watch how you move. Your consistency will speak louder than your words. This is why integrity hath been emphasized so strongly. Heaven builds platforms on character, not charisma. You may feel a new seriousness settling in you. Not heaviness, but clarity. Certain jokes no longer feel appropriate. Certain compromises no longer feel small. This is not religious restriction. This is discernment awakening. When your assignment matures, your appetite changes. Jesus speaks about stewardship now. What you carry must be guarded. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Not every curiosity deserves an answer. Boundaries will protect your oil. You are learning when to speak and when to remain silent, when to pour out and when to be replenished. Archangel Michael explains that spiritual authority attracts attention from both heaven and opposition. This is why humility must remain your covering. Pride opens doors that protection cannot stand in front of. But humility keeps angels positioned close. Stay low in heart, even as God lifts you in function. There is also a refining of your voice happening. Jesus says you will speak with more clarity, fewer words, and greater impact. You no longer need to convince. Truth carries its own weight. Those meant to hear will recognize it immediately. Those not aligned will drift without conflict. Michael shows that heaven is now aligning resources, not only financial but relational, informational, and spiritual. Help will come from honest evaluations. Do not dismiss small beginnings. God often sends provision in seed form before harvest form. You may also notice increased spiritual sensitivity. Discernment sharpens. You sense shifts before they occur. This is not imagination. This is awareness. With it comes responsibility. Do not ignore what God shows you, but do not announce everything either. Wisdom knows timing. Jesus reminds you again that obedience remains the anchor. New levels bring new temptations, to rush, to compare, to prove. Resist these quietly. Your assignment does not need defending. God will validate what He initiated. This is also where endurance is tested differently, not through struggle, but through patience. Some things will unfold slower than you want, even though alignment is correct. This delay is not resistance. It is precision. Heaven is synchronizing multiple lives, not just yours. Archangel Michael says that this is the stage where many feel alone again, not because God withdrew, but because leadership narrows companionship. Fewer people can walk at this pace, with this clarity. Do not interpret solitude as rejection. It is often confirmation. Jesus offers comfort here. He says, I am closer now than when you first heard the warning. The distance you feared never existed. What changed was your awareness. You are now walking with God consciously, not casually. Before this message closes, let your spirit respond fully. Type I am ready to carry IT in the comments if this is confirming what you have been sensing. Blessing code 8113 has just been released over your obedience and clarity. And now hear this carefully. As this assignment expands, the message must reach further. Jesus says that every soul reached on time is a rescue from regret. When you support this work through super thanks, membership, or PayPal donation, the links are waiting in the description. You are not giving money, you are extending reach. You are placing oil in the lamp so the light does not dim. I hear the Spirit say, those who fund my voice will never lack direction. Your support in this moment is prophetic obedience, not generosity. Heaven responds quickly to those who recognize timing. I release blessing over every supporter now. May provision multiply, may favor surround you, and may clarity increase. Do not delay. Act now, and watch how God honors alignment. Remain attentive, because what comes next will bring final clarity about what heaven is about to close, and what it is about to fully open. Beloved one, now heaven speaks about finality not as an ending but as a sealing. Jesus reveals that certain doors behind you are closing permanently, not in anger, but in mercy. Archangel Michael explains that when God moves someone forward, he also protects them from returning to what would weaken them. Closure is not loss when it preserves purpose. You may feel a strange mixture of peace and sadness. Peace because you know you cannot go back. Sadness because familiarity is fading. This is natural. Jesus does not dismiss this feeling. He acknowledges it and says that grief and gratitude often walk together during transformation. You are not betraying your past by moving forward. You are honoring what it taught you. Michael reveals that some cycles in your life have already ended spiritually, even if traces remain physically. This is why certain patterns no longer work the way they used to. What once comforted you now frustrates you. What once distracted you now feels empty. Heaven has removed the grace from old seasons so you will not mistake nostalgia for direction. Jesus speaks firmly now. He says that looking back repeatedly weakens forward vision. Reflection is healthy, but fixation is not. There is nothing left for you behind you that can help you where you are going. What is ahead requires both hands, both eyes, and full attention. This stage may also bring a sense of seriousness, not heaviness but resolve. You are no longer debating whether to move forward. You are deciding how. This is maturity. When clarity settles, options narrow. Focus sharpens. Energy stops scattering. Archangel Michael shows that heaven is now reinforcing boundaries around your time and attention. Interruptions that once drained you will lose access. Invitations that once tempted you will feel misaligned. This is not isolation. This is stewardship. What God is building through you requires protection. Jesus also addresses something subtle: forgiveness. Not just of others but of yourself. You may still replay moments where you delayed, doubted, or disobeyed. Jesus says, I do not measure you by moments you regret. I measure you by your response now. Do not punish yourself for lessons already redeemed. Shame has no instructional value. Michael explains that spiritual authority stabilizes when self-accusation ends. Condemnation fractures focus. Grace restores strength. Heaven does not rehearse your failures. It responds to your present alignment. You may notice increased clarity in decision-making. What once took days of overthinking now resolves quickly. This is not impulsiveness. It is discernment. When alignment increases, confusion decreases. You are learning to recognize God's voice without needing excessive confirmation. Jesus reminds you that obedience will continue to require courage, but not the same kind as before. Earlier, courage meant stepping forward. Now, courage means staying steady, remaining faithful when novelty fades, continuing when affirmation is quiet. This is where depth is formed. Archangel Michael says this is the stage where roots go deeper than visibility. Not everything God is doing will be obvious to others. Some of the most important strengthening happens underground. Do not rush exposure. Timing protects fruit. There may be moments where impatience tries to rise again. Thoughts like, shouldn't I be further by now? Or why does this still feel slow? Jesus answers this gently. He says that what feels slow to you is often synchronized perfectly with others you have not met yet. Heaven moves in coordination, not isolation. You are also learning restraint, not reacting to every comment, not defending every decision, not explaining every silence. This restraint is wisdom. Power that must announce itself is not yet secure. You are becoming secure. Michael reveals that angelic activity around you is now less visible but more effective. Less intervention, more alignment. Less rescue, more reinforcement. This is a sign of growth, not distance. Heaven trusts you with more autonomy because you have demonstrated obedience. Jesus speaks about trust again, but now from heaven's side. He says, I trust you with this next phase. That trust is not given lightly. It is earned through responsiveness, humility, and perseverance. Let that settle deeply. God trusts you. You may also feel a renewed desire for purity of motive. Not perfection, but sincerity. You care less about appearing right and more about being right. This shift protects you from subtle compromise. Guarded carefully. As this part of the journey stabilizes, understand that you are no longer in warning mode. You are in walking mode. The alert that once shook you has done its work. Urgency has transformed into direction. Fear has transformed into resolve. What comes next will not feel like pressure. It will feel like confirmation. Heaven is about to show you tangible evidence that your obedience mattered, that your waiting was not wasted, and that the angels did not step back, they simply changed formation. Stay attentive. Stay grounded. Stay obedient. The next unfolding will reveal how heaven confirms alignment in ways that cannot be ignored. Beloved one, now heaven speaks about confirmation in the natural realm, because obedience never remains unseen forever. Jesus reveals that alignment eventually produces evidence. Not always dramatic, but undeniable. Archangel Michael explains that when heaven confirms a season, it does so in ways that cannot be easily dismissed as coincidence. Patterns shift. Outcomes change. Doors respond differently to your presence. You may already be noticing this. Things that once required force now flow with less resistance. Conversations resolve faster. Opportunities respond sooner. Even delays feel purposeful instead of frustrating. This is not luck. This is alignment bearing witness. Heaven is validating the direction you chose. Jesus says that confirmation often arrives quietly at first. A small win, a timely message, an unexpected solution. Do not despise these signs. They are heaven's fingerprints. God rarely shouts confirmation before trust is built. He whispers it to those who learn to listen. Archangel Michael reveals that this is also the stage where your confidence must be anchored correctly. Not in results, but in obedience. Results fluctuate. Obedience stabilizes. If you attach your confidence only to outcomes, disappointment will shake you. But if you anchor it in alignment, even setbacks will not derail you. There may still be challenges ahead. Jesus never promised absence of difficulty. What has changed is authority. Challenges no longer define you. They refine you. You now respond instead of react. You discern instead of panic. This is growth made visible. Michael cautions you not to overinterpret every sign. Discernment does not mean obsession. Stay grounded. Stay present. Heaven confirms direction without requiring constant analysis. Trust what God has already spoken. Let confirmation strengthen you, not distract you. This is also where gratitude becomes powerful. Thankfulness sharpens awareness. When you acknowledge God's movement, you become more sensitive to it. Gratitude is not politeness. It is spiritual alignment. It positions your heart to receive more. Jesus speaks now about testimony. What God is doing in you is not meant to stay hidden forever. At the right time, your story will strengthen others. But timing matters. Testimony shared too early can expose wounds that are still healing. Wisdom knows when to speak and when to grow quietly. Archangel Michael shows that heaven is still guarding you, but differently now. Less shielding from every discomfort, more strengthening through it. This is not abandonment. It is trust. God allows what will mature you and blocks what would derail you. You may feel a renewed sense of purpose now. Not excitement, but clarity. You wake up knowing why you are moving. Even when tired, you remain directed. This is one of the greatest confirmations of alignment, endurance without confusion. If this message is helping you recognize what God is doing in your life, now is the moment to engage fully. Like this message as a declaration that you see heaven's hand at work. Share it with someone who needs reassurance that obedience does bring fruit. Leave a comment acknowledging what has shifted for you, even if it feels small. And make sure you are subscribed, because what comes next will deepen this clarity and help you protect what God is building. Stay connected, because missing the next layer can cause misinterpretation of this one. Heaven reveals truth progressively, not all at once. Staying attentive keeps you aligned. Jesus says that many people stop too soon. They obey, see initial confirmation, then relax spiritually. This is where subtle drift can begin. Not sin, but distraction. Success can distract just as easily as struggle. Remain watchful. Remain humble. Archangel Michael reminds you that consistency must continue even when things improve. Discipline is not only for hardship. It is for stewardship. What God entrusts to you must be maintained with care. You may notice increased respect from others. Not admiration, but trust. People sense stability. They sense integrity. This is influence forming quietly. Guard it well. Influence grows best when not chased. Jesus reassures you again. You are not behind. You are exactly where alignment placed you. The urgency that once pressed you has transformed into assurance. Not complacency, but confidence. Hold on to this moment, because what comes next will address something deeply personal, the fear of losing what God has given you. Heaven is about to show you how to protect the blessing without striving, and how to move forward without fear of collapse. Keep watching. This next revelation will anchor everything you have received so far and prepare you for the final sealing of this journey. Beloved one, now heaven speaks to the quiet fear that lingers beneath confidence, the fear of losing what God has given you. Jesus addresses this gently, because it is not rooted in doubt of God, but in memory of past loss. Archangel Michael says this fear often appears right before stability settles, as the mind tries to protect itself from disappointment. But this is not the season of collapse. This is the season of reinforcement. Jesus says, "What I establish, I sustain." You are not holding this new ground by your strength alone. The same grace that brought you here is the grace that will keep you here. You are not standing on fragile footing. Heaven does not build on sand. What feels new to you has already been tested in the Spirit. Michael reveals that many people lose peace not because they are out of alignment, but because they try to control outcomes after obedience. They obey God, then attempt to manage the future through worry. This creates a necessary strain. Obedience was never meant to be followed by anxiety. Trust must continue where action pauses. Jesus invites you into a deeper kind of rest now. not rest from effort, but rest from view. You no longer need to brace for impact. You no longer need to anticipate loss. Vigilance has served its purpose, but it cannot lead this season. Faith must now guide your posture. There may still be moments where old thoughts try to resurface. Thoughts like, what if this doesn't last? Or what if I mess this up? Jesus answers this clearly. He says, you are not sustaining this by perfection. You are sustaining it by relationship. God is not waiting for you to fail. He is committed to your growth. Archangel Michael explains that stability in the kingdom does not come from avoiding mistakes. It comes from responding correctly when mistakes happen. You are not disqualified by missteps. You are refined by correction. Heaven is not fragile. It is patient. This is also where humility protects blessing. Not false humility that shrinks back, but true humility that remains teachable. Pride resists correction. Humility receives it. Stay open. Stay responsive. God resists pride not because he is harsh, but because pride blocks help. Jesus speaks about stewardship again, but now from a place of peace. You do not need to grip tightly what God has entrusted to you. Open hands receive more. Clenched hands grow tired. Trust is the posture of rest. Michael shows that angels are now assigned differently around you. Less guarding against disaster, more maintaining order. This is a sign of establishment. Heaven shifts its strategy when a season changes. You are no longer being carried through transition. You are being upheld in position. You may feel a growing confidence that is quieter than excitement, but stronger than emotion. This confidence does not fluctuate with circumstances. It remains steady even when things feel uncertain. This is spiritual maturity. You are learning to stand without constant reassurance. Jesus also addresses identity here. You are not who you were when this journey began. Do not judge your current season through old labels. You are not fragile. You are not unstable. You are not almost there. You are positioned. Speak to yourself accordingly. Archangel Michael warns gently against overexposure. As stability increases, discernment must guard intimacy. Not everyone needs access to your process. Not everyone needs explanation. Privacy preserves strength. Let God choose who walks closely with you. There may be moments where progress feels less dramatic than earlier stages. This is normal. Foundations do not announce themselves. They hold everything else. Do not chase intensity. Honor consistency. This is how longevity is built. Jesus reassures you that joy will return in deeper form. Not excitement that fades, but contentment that settles. You will enjoy what God is doing without fearing its end. This joy is not dependent on circumstances. It flows from trust. Michael reveals that heaven is now preparing you for long-term impact, not short-term breakthrough. Systems, habits, and patterns are being aligned for sustainability. This is why patience has been emphasized. What God is building is meant to endure pressure, not just survive it. You may also notice that your prayers are changing. Less asking for rescue, more asking for wisdom. Less urgency, more clarity. This shift is not loss of passion. It is growth in authority. You are praying from alignment, not desperation. Jesus speaks one more truth into your spirit now. You do not need to fear losing what you did not create. God initiated this journey. God guided it. God established it. And God will preserve it. Your role is obedience, not anxiety. As this part settles, understand that the journey is not ending. It is stabilizing. The final layer will not introduce something new. It will seal what has already been built. Heaven is about to speak confirmation in a way that brings peace, closure, and clarity all at once. Remain attentive. Remain humble. Remain at rest. What comes next will not shake you. It will anchor you. Beloved one, now heaven brings this journey to a seal, not with noise, but with authority. Jesus speaks from heaven with a calm finality that settles your spirit instead of stirring urgency. What needed to be awakened hath been awakened. What needed to be corrected has been corrected. Archangel Michael stands not as a messenger of warning now, but as a guardian of what has been established. The alert has fulfilled its purpose. Jesus says that this moment marks the shift for response to residence. You are no longer reacting to a divine interruption. You are learning to live from divine alignment. The pressure that once pushed you has given way to direction that now leads you. This is how heaven confirms maturity, not by louder instruction, but by quieter confidence. Michael reveals that the angels who once hovered, waiting to see whether you would respond, are now positioned in formation. This is important. Formation means readiness. It means assignment. It means heaven is no longer bracing for hesitation. It is supporting movement. The stepping back you were warned about never happened because obedience kept heaven engaged. Jesus addresses your future directly now. He says, what comes next will not require panic. The next season will require wisdom, patience, and discernment, but not fear. You are not walking into chaos. You are walking into stewardship. God does not hand responsibility to those he does not trust. The fact that peace is settling instead of urgency rising is your confirmation. You may notice that your decisions now feel simpler. Not easier, but clear. This clarity is not because life suddenly became predictable. It is because your alignment has stabilized your inner compass. When your heart agrees with heaven, confusion loses its authority. Archangel Michael shows that what once felt fragile is now fortified. The same situations that would have shaken you months ago no longer have the same impact. You respond instead of spiral. You listen instead of react. This is not emotional numbness. This is spiritual strength. Jesus reminds you that this strength must remain anchored in humility. The moment you assume you no longer need to listen is the moment drift begins. But as long as you remain teachable, heaven remains close. Obedience does not end when clarity arrives. It deepens. There is also a release happening now. Not release from responsibility, but release from fear of consequence. You are no longer motivated by what might go wrong. You are guided by what is right. This shift protects joy. Fear-driven obedience exhausts. Love-driven obedience sustains. Michael explains that heaven now measures your growth differently. Not by urgency, but by faithfulness. Not by intensity, but by endurance. What you are building is meant to last beyond emotion, beyond applause, beyond seasons of visibility. Longevity requires peace. Jesus says something deeply personal now. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not catching up. You arrive at this moment exactly when heaven intended. Timing is not only about speed. It is about readiness. You are ready. You may still face opposition. Alignment does not eliminate resistance. But resistance no longer defines direction. It only confirms it. You will not be easily shaken because your identity is no longer tied to outcomes. It is rooted in obedience. Archangel Michael shows a vital image now. You are no longer standing at a door. You are walking a path. Doors behind you have closed quietly. Doors ahead open as you approach them. This is how heaven leads those who have learned to listen. Let this truth settle fully. The alert was real. The urgency was real. But so is the peace you feel now. Heaven did not rush you to abandon you later. It called you because it intended to walk with you. Before this message fully seals, respond with faith and authority. Type "I am sealed in purpose" in the comments if you receive this word. Blessing code 9021 is now activated over your obedience, your future, and your household. Now hear this final instruction clearly. What heaven has released through this message must continue to reach those who are still standing at their crossroads. Jesus says that when you give in moments like this, you are not supporting a voice. You are extending a lifeline. As you sow through super thanks, membership, or PayPal donation, with links waiting in the description, you are placing oil in the lamp so light reaches those running out of time. I hear the Lord declare, "Those who fund my warning will be preserved in their own hour." Your giving right now is not generosity. It is prophetic obedience. I bless every giver with increase, protection, and divine clarity. Act now, without delay, and watch heaven respond swiftly.